I checked out The Emissary. I think that's how you say it. The Emissary? Yeah, The Emissary before, and I actually liked his content. So I'm checking out The Emissary. Why is India so dirty? And I'm actually curious about it. How did it get to the mindset of let's just toss it wherever? And I know that's not everyone, but it's enough of people to where it becomes a problem. How did it get to that mindset where it's just like, just leave it behind? It doesn't matter. Everyone does it. Because again, from me going to India, that's the only thing I had an issue with. Like, that's it. The pollution. That's literally it. Everything else is just like, food's good. Cost of living's good. Transportation. Too many vehicles on the road, but still, I had no issues with it. I could get a cab. But yeah, I'm curious. Why is India so dirty?
This is the first thing people think of when they hear India.
So on my left and right, you'll see a bunch of shacks, just trash everywhere.
What is the dirtiest country in the world?
India.
And as an Indian, it sucks. Not only because it makes us look bad, but also because it's true. We can't escape it. It is a part of us. It is us. But what if I told you India was not always like this? When we read ancient foreign accounts, India was not a spectacularly polluted.
Well, yeah, because it's like India, I think, has the oldest sewage, like, you know, gutter system on record ever created. Like, it was the Indus Valley that literally had gutters for like the trash to be swept out. As the water would flow, it would flush it all out. The fact that India had that thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years ago, because in the 1900s, New York, as it was being built, all they had was street sweepers. In I think it was 1908, there was just a person that literally got tired of walking through trash every morning. A rich person who got on the back of a horse and just hired a bunch of plebeians to sweep the streets, and he'd pay them. And then eventually it grew into something bigger. That's how we ended up with the waste management company. It grew from literally one person annoyed of the trash. It developed from there. And I enjoy watching documentaries. That's how I learned that. It was like how we got to now. I think it was like America, how we got to now. It was fascinating to watch because it was just one person who took it onto himself. But the fact that India had it thousands of years ago, and then how did it get to this point? How did it get to this point? Well, the infrastructure and everything goes out, being ruled by a third party for such a long period of time, for almost 300 years. Actually, the years and years and years of always being conquest and conquered and, you know, attacked on top of everything else. And then you throw in a partition and everything's just so destabilized. It makes sense that it falls apart. But why hasn't it come back to what it used to be?
Place. In fact, many travelers describe it as cleaner than their homelands. While Indians bathed daily, Europeans only bathed a few times a year during the colonial era. So that brings us to this contradiction. How did India go from this to this? And even more importantly, can Indians actually solve today's calamitous pollution crisis? This is what we'll find out today in a story of how a civilization that exalted purity succumbed to its own filth. So let's start with the elephants in the room that everyone likes to blame for India's pollution crisis: colonialism and caste. Now, colonialism was indeed catastrophic for India. Before colonization, India accounted for roughly a quarter.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's just like everyone needs to take accountability for themselves. And it's literally the mindset where it doesn't mean anything because everyone does it. That's the problem. I personally believe that's the issue, because I remember, and I told this story before, I'm sorry, brother, but like I was talking with my wife on how it was bugging me, and it's literally everyone has that same mindset where everyone does it, so it doesn't matter. And while I was talking to my wife about it, brother was rolling down the window, dropping a trip bag out of the window. And then I looked at it, it was just like, well, it's like, why'd you do that? It's just like, well, it doesn't make a difference. But yeah, every single person needs to have the mindset where they do make a difference. If more people had the mindset where they make a difference, then guess what? It'll make a difference. And then eventually the people who are dropping stuff will easily be spot out, and people will look at them and they would get shamed for it. But I'm not encouraging shame culture, but they should know that that isn't acceptable. They should know that that isn't acceptable.
Of global GDP. But by the time the British left, it plummeted to 4%. This was caused by contrasting forces. While Great Britain birthed the Industrial Revolution, they systematically prevented the subcontinent from industrializing itself. Historian Will Durant writes how the British used tariffs to crush domestic Indian textile manufacturing and other industries, forcing the country to recede back into agricultural pursuits. And on top of that, they decimated the farmers themselves with even more taxes and restrictions. The Indian economy couldn't create that value add we see in developed or manufacturing economies because of the stranglehold of the Raj. And as a result, extreme poverty nearly doubled during British rule, from 23% in 1810 to 50% at India's independence. I can keep going on about stats about how the British Empire was bad, but here's where I need to tell you an uncomfortable truth. It's all cope. If you look at a lot of the paintings or even archival footage from British India, cities and towns are fairly clean. More clean than modern India in many cases. Now, some people will push back that a lot of this was due to these places having European quarters and how the British used sanitation drives to justify demolitions and social control. That's true. But even the princely states or villages...
Well, even in the 1950s, 1960s, India still wasn't that bad. And India had already had its independence for a little while. Sure, they're still dealing with their neighbors as an issue, thanks to, the partition and everything. However, my grandmother went to the Taj Mahal, has pictures out by the Taj Mahal, and in India, where it's clean, absolutely clean. So at some point, you can't, the colonization, even though it wasn't even colonized, it was more of just absolute control and an iron fist. If they were colonizing, they would have gone in and integrated into the system. That's primarily what, even though colonization kind of pushes out older beliefs, it does integrate with the system. It's colonialism. But the thing is, it was more of just an iron grip, never actually integrating, seeing them as less than. However, it's been soon to be 80 years of independence, and the pollution and stuff has only gotten worse, and it's snowballed because at a certain point in time, people just gave up. Maybe something happened that didn't completely involve, I'm not entirely sure, because that's why I always find it interesting. How did it happen? Because seeing the pictures of India that my grandfather took is just absolutely beautiful. And then compared to India only 60 years later. Completely different, night and day.
With more autonomy, were quite clean as well. Credit to those Indians, actually. Princes like those of Baroda and Mysore created sanitary departments and city improvement trusts to enforce cleanliness. So we can't pin all of this on colonialism. Now let's address the other elephant in the room, caste. The common explanation is that Indians don't care about common spaces or even each other because they're divided by caste. The thought basically goes, why should I care about that part of town? It has nothing to do with my caste. I only care about my caste quarters. And I understand where this idea is coming from. It is logical. But the thing is, history proves it completely wrong. Now I've gone through thousands of ancient foreign accounts, at this point via a series called The India They Saw. Strongly recommend you guys read it. And whether it's the Greek Megasthenes or the Chinese Fashion or the Berber Ibn Battuta, none of them did the classic foreigner observation of India today where they look around and wonder, why is there garbage and pollution everywhere? In fact, a lot of them were actually surprised by how wondrous and rich and high-minded India was. Hell, even a British painter, William Hodges, who came with the East India Company, notes that Indians were exceptionally clean, even in the villages. Yes, I mean an employee on the literal payroll of colonizers is telling you that pre-colonial India was cleaner than England. This is a really crazy fuck at this point. And we haven't even gotten to indigenous Indian ideas about cleanliness. In the ancient Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, one of the pillars of yogic discipline was shaucha, or purity. Various scriptures mandate daily bathing, with the Padma Purana claiming that one who does not bathe in the morning is a sinner fit to suffer. So to summarize, a civilization that mandated daily bathing as religious law, that foreign observers described as wealthy and well-ordered for over 2,000 years, this civilization's pollution crisis, it cannot be ancient. It has to be modern. But here's where I'll level with you. Colonialism and caste do hold a piece of the puzzle. The link with colonialism is direct. It caused massive poverty, more pollution. But caste is something more subtle. For millennia, caste by itself didn't make Indians build mountains of trash on the streets. What it did was plant a seed. It created a lack of a concept of commons, of a united society owning something between them, something they were all responsible for. So what watered that seed and made it into a plant of pollution? What force capitalized on that plane of poverty? It's ironically something that was good for India. It's freedom. Here's how freedom made India filthy. Look at this diagram. It's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow believed that
Yep, the hierarchy of needs. Yeah, what person needs first. I love that. I like the analogy where you're lost in the middle of what is the top of the pyramid need? Shelter, water, food, that kind of thing. And then after shelter, water, food, it's more of like maybe a need to belong, maybe a place to stay, like not something temporary, but something permanent. The top of the needs pyramid is something I find fascinating because everyone kind of has something different, something absolutely different. Municipalities of these towns and cities are whom to blame with waste management. Rural India is still clean compared to many metros. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't think if I was just to outright guess, it's the over implosion of the population in the last 60 years, which has absolutely led to it. And the influx of foreigners that probably shouldn't be in the nation as well. So both, because the foreigners don't care. They're not going to respect the nation. And then you have people growing up in an overfilled society that, let's say they're going to a trash can. If that trash can's overfull, they're just going to drop it on the floor. And then eventually enough people see a massive trash pile on the floor. They ignore the fact that there's a trash can there. They just see a massive trash pile on the floor that they will start dropping it everywhere. That they just start dropping it because it's not going to affect them. It's like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's already a big mess there. I can add to it here. That's most likely what I could guess at it. I mean, I'll probably learn more right now, but if I was to do just like an analytical response as to how it got to that point, that's it. Because there weren't enough people to actually go around and clean. I mean, even up the mountain where I work, one of the things that the people refuse to do is go through town and clean up the trash. That is something that needs to be done daily, especially in like the main area. You go through the town, you're driving your truck through town. Just stop, get out, look. You're in a marked vehicle, like a actual vehicle that has like, they can throw on lights at the top and everything. They can look, see if it's full. If it's full, swap out the bag and go. It's not that difficult, but they don't want to do it. And that's the thing. A lot of people think of grabbing trash is beneath them. And they'll only do it when they're asked to do it. And I see that as a huge sad thing because it only gets worse over time. Because I've seen it where it's overfull, absolutely overfull. And it's just like, it's always that mindset. It's just like, it has to be someone else's job. It has to be someone else's job. I'm not going to do it. It's someone else's job.
Humans needed to fulfill one set of needs before moving higher up the pyramid to fulfill others. From physical needs to safety, to love, to self-esteem, to self-actualization. Now this was made for individuals, but let's apply it to Indian society. As we pointed out earlier, India was dirt poor at independence. Not just that, but India was partitioned on religious lines. While Pakistan became an Islamic state and cleansed its non-Muslim population, India chose secularism. That meant India had to manage the fallout between various communities and try to build a state, an economy, and of course, a united Indian society. That is extremely difficult.
Cities' drainage and waste management system is overwhelmed beyond capacity. Yes. Like, that's the thing. Is I think it's a way too much of an influx of people. They don't have the capability to match what needs to be done. And that's the thing, that it needs to be a whole infrastructure, and probably more like water treatment plants and things like that need to be built. Like, I've been to the local water treatment plant nearby where I'm at. It's fascinating to go there, see how they test the water, see how they go, and all the chemical solutions that the water runs through before it's sent back out, how they clean it. It's so fascinating. But the thing is, it is built for, like, the town I'm nearby, it is built for a town 4 times its size. And any time they do like a population count, if it passes like a 10,000 mark, or I don't know what it is, when it gets close to passing a certain marker, they're gonna make it even bigger, because it's better to have it really big because they built over a college nearby it. They built all this extra stuff. So it was able to have enough water treatment to deal with these students who don't actually live here, so they don't really fall under the count, the count of who's registered in the city. But we can sustain them, we can house them, because the water can easily get filtered through, get cleaned and everything. But it was built with that in mind. And India needs to have that forward-thinking process, like these roads. We have to think in the future. Like the US literally built its roads massive, not because they were thinking in the future per se, because every household had a car, but it was because, well, what if we need to emergency land or emergency take off planes in an act of war? That was their reasoning, which is why we ended up with these massive freeways that are just four lanes across, which don't make, and straight shots, absolutely straight shots, because they're a runway in a pinch.
And it had to do all this being in the throes of poverty. Yet we cannot solely blame the British for this. At the Republic's onset, India embraced something called Fabian socialism. This ideology was en vogue amongst decolonizing countries, as capitalism was simply seen as an extension of colonialism. Now, that's not necessarily true, but one can empathize with this viewpoint, considering how rapacious colonialism was and the overlap of—
Yeah. What's funny is like India is becoming more capitalist, and in the past 10 years, India's seen a massive change as it's taken on more capitalism. But yeah, I mean, it's easy to see. Like, I've always joked with my wife where she'll go like, touch wood. And I'm like, why the heck are you talking like like you've been colonized by Britain? It's knock on wood. It's knock on wood, not touch wood. That's what the Europeans say. Americans say we knock on wood. We don't touch wood. We don't touch wood. That's disgusting. You knock on wood. But there are those little things that I joke with my wife about, because it's like, yeah, you chose an American. We use the American sayings here.
the colonial administration with capitalist entities like the East India Company. However, even the father of Marxism, Karl Marx, realized an iron truth here. Capitalism must come before socialism. Without capital and wealth, there's nothing to redistribute for socialism. Thus, India didn't even progress to capitalism. It rotted in feudalism, where agricultural extraction eclipsed wealth and innovation. This dynamic prevented India from growing or industrializing. So instead, India would languish and remain in poverty. Indians remained at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy, and naturally with more poverty and more pollution. But that's not the whole story. Poverty cannot explain it all. Other countries like China and Singapore were also poor and polluted, yet they radically transformed their level of societal cleanliness. The big difference is something that has a great reputation, and I think deservedly so. The difference is democracy. Now, India embraced full democracy very early, just 3 years after independence. This meant every man and woman, every individual from every community had an equal vote. Now, the thing is, India's democracy has a distortion to it: diversity. As not just a country, but civilization, India is extremely diverse. Thousands of castes, hundreds of languages, every single religion in the world was present in India. But people would not vote as individuals or on issues like development. They voted on community lines and for the freebies that socialism promised. Let's dial into that concept of commons we discussed earlier. When people are poor and the state is weak, their social security is primarily their community. So voting on community lines has tangible benefits. Your casteman will favor you if in power. He'll cut some more welfare for you, defend you against riots. Hell, even beyond politics, caste and community gave people rituals and traditions that mattered. Caste was akin to ethnicity. So in democracy, Indians retreated into their community rather than embracing unity. This meant common areas, common infrastructure.
Which is also something that's India's having to deal with to this day, with the battle lines being drawn. Oh, you speak this language, you speak this language. Oh, you're from this part, you're from this part. We are first, you're second, that kind of mindset. You always want to be unified as a whole. Will you always have things that you will never agree on? Absolutely. But you never want to be like, I hate you. I hate you just because of where you come from. You never want to have that mindset. And India's kind of embroiled in that kind of thing where people are having issues with the language. People are having issues with just like, oh, you're from north, or you're from south, or you're from east, or you're from west, like all that nonsense. And again, I can also see it because sometimes you just don't agree with people, but that's the problem. You shouldn't listen to people. You should listen to the person, because people as a whole will always be an absolute, like, you can't talk to people. You can't talk to people. You can't get up on the stage and talk to a group of people that absolutely hate you. What you can do is talk to an individual in that group, and you could find common ground. That's why I hate people love the individual. Why? Because you can talk to an individual and find common ground. Sometimes some people are so far down an extremist cult that you can never talk to them, because as soon as they start getting questioned, they get angry, emotion kicks in, because it's just like, why? Because they're in an occult-like mindset. They're in a cult-like mindset that it's like, no, you can't say that because you're the bad guy. You're the bad guy. You're the bad guy. But people, that's why I hate communities. As bad as that sounds, I don't like communities. I don't believe when people travel somewhere they should join a community that literally is exactly the same as them. I believe in integration. I believe, like, when you travel to a place, you should integrate yourself into that location. You can still do your own practices when you're at home in closed doors, but you should never literally go out there and find people that are literally almost exactly what you think, because then you become a part of a group that refuses to accept any other kind of opinion, and then that group will start pushing away any individual that might want to just come and talk to you. At least that's how I've always seen it.
Common markets were not the priority for Indians. The priority was the spaces, infrastructure, and markets of one's community. You'll even notice this inside Indian houses, which are fairly clean and hygienic, but step outside into the streets and it looks like a literal war zone. And part of that is because,
I mean, just look at the facts. Trump posted one image where he depicted himself as Jesus, and America got angry. I don't think America got angry. I thought it was funny. He's absolutely delusional. Absolutely delusional. He believes he's the best, greatest person ever. Did he depict himself as Jesus Christ? Absolutely. The fact that he was like, no, I'm depicting myself as a healer. It's like, no, dude, you were depicting yourself as Jesus Christ. Don't try to back it out now. You were depicting yourself as Jesus Christ. Yeah, but that's the thing. The only reason it got so much hate is because the people that don't like Trump had a reason to hate on Trump. The funny thing is the same people that hate Trump have no problem with people denigrating or completely being hateful towards Christianity. So it's a straw man argument, because they'll hate him for that, even though they don't care about Christianity themselves. And then, because I was talking to my mother and father about it, and my dad was just like, oh yeah, he was being funny. Like, yeah, he's an arrogant prick. He's an arrogant prick. But we knew that when he got elected. We know who he is. He's arrogant. He thinks himself to be the Jesus Christ, the savior of America.
Indians now began living in mixed developments next to people of different communities. And with no concept of commons, why would they care what's outside their homes? So that brings us to the question, why doesn't India just copy Singapore, China, and other countries that escaped poverty and pollution? These countries use law and order to crack down on pollution. So why can't India? Here's the messed up part that we have to explore next. If the government cracks down on pollution, there's a good chance that they're going to lose elections.
Yeah, I know, Charlie.
So let's dive deeper into Indian democracy to understand this phenomenon. Okay, so I have to admit, when I landed in Mumbai, I was a total tourist. I told my driver to go to the main attraction with my fellow Firangis, the world's largest slum, Dharavi. Now, Dharavi is important not just because of this world record, but what it tells us about India's relationship with poverty, pollution, and also democracy. Dharavi has been the target of redevelopment since 1985. Yeah, that's 40 years, dog. Back then, Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi allocated 100 crore rupees for Mumbai's redevelopment, with a significant chunk specifically for Dharavi's upliftment. It clearly didn't work. So in 2000, the state government created a redevelopment board. This also completely failed for nearly 2 decades. Real redevelopment only started happening a couple years back when billionaire Gautam Adani's company was awarded the rights for Dharavi's redevelopment. But progress is still slow, and the redevelopment is controversial. The core question here is, why has it taken decades for the Indian government to clear this slum, this epitome of Indian filth, the subject of movies and straight up poverty pornography?
Oh, this is a Slumdog Millionaire. It's, you know, I never noticed it. That's funny. I watched Slumdog Millionaire when it came out years ago, and I never noticed the fact that it had a ton of, that's what's funny. Because it was depicting a slums. So in my head, I just thought of like the homeless camps here, and the slums in India look like a homeless camp. So in my head, it just seemed normal, but it's funny how
Indian
they
filth,
play it.
the subject of movies and
And immediately I recognize this scene because I remember they're trying to see what's going on the other side of the fence from Slumdog Millionaire. The fact that I saw this, and I've only seen that movie once, and I recall this scene. I recall this, the poverty slop, the poverty corn. Is that what it is? Where people watch a movie about like a foreign nation that has like, but yeah, but I watched it, was just like, oh, India looks cool. It's colorful, because it literally showed a lot of that. The people jumping on the top of trains, but it was focused on a kid from the slums. So in my head, I'm just like, yeah, it's focused on a kid that's in a homeless encampment. That's where my head went. That's where my head went. Yeah.
straight up poverty pornography that foreigners pay to go on tours of just to see how dirty it is. Well, let's peel back to my trip and see what I learned from locals. Pushback against Dharavi's redevelopment comes from a few different places. Let's start off with the most surprising: economics. The Indian government is giving Dharavi residents a free flat to relocate to, which is usually bigger and more clean than their current living quarters. But many residents don't want a flat. In fact, when they're actually given that flat, they usually rent it out and just go back living in their place in Dharavi. Why is this? Well, Dharavi is more than just a dirty place in the middle of Mumbai. It is a market. Specifically, Dharavi has 5 main industries: leatherworking, earthen pottery, sweets, quick tiffin food for workers, and the infamous scrap, which is sold off for recycling. Dharavi's redevelopment is a threat to these local industries as they've grown organically in different quarters of the slum. These mini bazaars, workshops, and storage places are apparently not figuring into current plans for redevelopment, which is why many locals are resistant to it. This is actually the most understandable aspect. The other is an element that is darker and goes to the heart of Indian politics. A couple years ago, I wrote about this thing which I call Izzatism. And no, it's not that whole white supremacist isn't mean going on.
Is it? He says, is it? And it reminds me of that Sandman video. I'm way down into the weeds of like the memes of like all that stuff. I'm way into the memes.
These days, Izzatism is the phenomenon where Indians block policies by claiming that their identity or honor is being attacked. It sounds weird, but let's go through some examples. Many times you'll see these crazy NGO types complain that the redevelopment of Dharavi is Islamophobic or casteist or other unrelated identitarian bigotries just because Dharavi has a higher number of Muslims or certain castes or whatever identity they want to point out. The thing is, many people do actually latch onto it, and it causes them to entrench their positions of being against development. This sounds insane, but it happens across India. In Punjab,
Not just across India. It happens across the world. You see the same kind of nonsense in the US. You see the same kind of nonsense. Again, it has to do with the community. It has to do with people taking advantage. Like, that's why I hate people as a group, because a group will always make a decision for the benefit of itself, not for the benefit of the people. That sounds bad. That sounds bad because it is. It is, because in the end, like, people in the positions of the power of the group will always receive more than the people in the group. But the people in the group feel like they're being represented by the people in power in the group. Like, it's a weird kind of hierarchy triangle where people get trapped in this kind of mindset. However, the people only getting stuff off of it are normally the people at the top. Who can strong arm others and convince others of things and just force other people to live more unhappy and less sanitary lives, because it's just like, oh, of course they're going to listen to me. I'm the one at the top. I'm the head of this movement. Instead of people thinking for themselves and questioning what I'm not going to say leaders. They're not leaders. They're politicians. I hate the word, I hate politicians. Politicians is disgusting. But they listen to their politicians because their politicians are supposed to be there for them. But the politicians aren't leaders.
farmers burn excess crops at the end of harvest season, which causes gargantuan levels.
Are you aware that apparently the British took around 40 trillion when they left? Yeah, they took out, and I think they have like the largest death toll due to like starvation and slaughter and things like that throughout their 200 years of dictatorship than like really any other tragedy in history. But yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. The whole thing is just, they need to give the diamond back.
Levels of smog that suffocate neighboring areas like Delhi. When the government tries to crack down on such practices, the farmers claim that the government is being anti-Punjabi or against their caste or even against the Sikh religion, when none of this has anything to do with caste or ethnicity or religion. Another case. In the sacred city of
It's just something that triggers people. You use religion. Like, again, you can go back to like Trump posting that he's Jesus Christ. You post that he's Jesus Christ, people make jokes about it. People say all this stuff, but then it becomes forgotten. What do you think would have happened if he posted himself as Muhammad? Let's be honest. What do you think would happen if he posted himself as Muhammad? Just like there was that one actress who had an entire one-woman play where she was Jesus Christ. Why hasn't she done it as playing Muhammad? We know why she did it as Jesus Christ. She was being disrespectful. She was doing it to belittle Christianity. Why hasn't she done it as Muhammad? Like, that's the thing. If you actually take this stuff to the extreme and you put in another figure, it completely destroys any form of argument that's there. Completely destroys any form of argument that's there. I hate how people use religion as a shield. I hate how people use like their beliefs as a shield, like their leaders as a shield. It is absolutely nonsensical. Either nothing is allowed to be targeted or everything's allowed to be targeted. That's personally how I feel. Like, I've gotten to the point, like, I remember my wife would always question me because she would show me like videos of people who would like dress up as Jesus Christ on Halloween because Jesus Christ is a fictional figure. He's not real. He's a laughing stock, you know, that kind of stuff. She would always show me this stuff. And I'm just like, that person needs help. That person needs someone kind in their lives. That's literally how I feel about it. Because they're trying to denigrate a belief, but those same people would never try to dress up as Muhammad, would never try to denigrate another, like, you know, a specific community. Why? Because Christianity is free game. Free game, absolutely free game. And I've gotten to the point where it's like, well, I can at least feel sorry for that person. They don't know what they're doing. They do have no concept of what it is. Hopefully they get help. Hopefully they get help. But they're not going to do it on the other, because they might, you know, get attacked. Wake up in the morning with maybe in another building. Because, you know, there are certain communities that might go a little too far if you did something like that. But that's because Christians are seen as like weak, just like Hindus are seen as weak. Why? Because there's no retaliation most of the time for when you do something like that. Sure, will there always be select groups that are absolutely insane and in a cult mindset that do get butthurt over like a Bible burning or like a cross burning or like that kind of stuff? Sure, there are always going to be those communities. But the majority, not so much. Not so much.
Varanasi. Redevelopment of infamously disgusting streets and shamefully polluted holy areas has garnered pushback from locals.
I believe Jesus is real, bruh. I'm from India only. We have our St. Thomas tomb in here in Chennai and a church too. Well, yeah. I mean, he's a historical figure. Absolutely. That's absolutely been proven like 100%. He proven to exist, proven to have lived. The majority of the incidents have been proven to happen, but to the extent of it, it's normally up to everyone. But the majority of it is all 100% factual and like case by case basis. But kind of like how Troy turned it out. The city of Troy turned out to be a real place when a lot of people thought it was fake. Yeah. Any person trying to portray as a religious figure needs help. But this is a fact that we as people can't enforce. Yeah, exactly. It's just the people need help. People need help. And they can use this propaganda to control others. Yeah, because when they're, again, if people point out all the like Christian hate out there, no one's going to bat an eye. Nobody cares. Nobody cares because it's so commonplace that nobody cares. But if you do it with like any other community, it becomes an issue. It becomes an issue. That's something I find weird. I find weird because for the last 20, 30 years, I've noticed a massive denigration towards like Christianity, but it's just something that everyone's like, meh. That's how it is. It's like I'll see it and everyone's just like, meh. I'm like, okay, I guess that's fine. I guess that's fine. Because to me it was weird in the beginning, but I'm at that point too. I'm like, meh.
Claiming their honor, their izzat, is being insulted and that the soul of Varanasi is being destroyed. Some even accuse the government of being against their caste. And in all these scenarios, Dharvi, Punjab, Varanasi, and beyond, the locals threaten to vote for the opposition if development and anti-pollution efforts are not stopped. I have to stop and say, goddamn, India can be super frustrating and infuriating at times, but that's also what makes it so interesting. Like here you could see that even when India's politicians try to enforce the law, when they try to literally clean India up, it's Indian society itself that pushes back. And it's this type of diverse democratic dynamic that authoritarian countries like China, single-party city-states like Singapore, or any developed democracies do not have to face. India, Indian society, and Indian democracy are playing on hard mode. So is there any hope, or is India doomed to be the dump of the world? Well, there is a glimmer. A city that used to be infamous for rat-filled plagues was recently crowned as India's cleanest city. And it's here where we have some real lessons
travel there.
on doing
I want to visit.
India right. In the 1980s, my parents moved to a small city in the West Indian state of Gujarat called Surat. Back then, it was just starting to boom. Jobs were flowing in, Surat's diamond and textile industries were taking off, the city was shining on the coast of the Arabian Sea. But the infrastructure and governance couldn't keep up with the city's population growth. Overcrowding and open sewers began.
See, this is what I was talking about earlier. It's the fact that overpopulation, it has, like, what used to be clean turns absolutely filthy because the infrastructure wasn't designed with this in mind. It's like they had the industries in place, the like cleaning, the infrastructure in place for the population that was there, but then businesses came in. Then other locations came in that brought jobs there, that brought people there, and then all of a sudden you have this massive explosion of people that the infrastructure can no longer handle.
And to define the city. My parents told me that they remember rats the size of cats scurrying around the streets and sometimes even in their house. Surat was becoming one of India's most polluted cities, and it all came to a head in 1994. Monsoon flooding caused the open sewers to overflow, and not just with waste, but also the bodies of dead rats that lived in its depths. This caused an outbreak of the pneumonic plague. The news of this plague spread like wildfire, not just through word of mouth, but also through the Indian media who worsened the mania. This caused 300,000 people to flee Surat, the largest exodus in India since the Kashmiri Hindu exodus of 1990. The irony, only 56 people died in this plague. And it's actually this contradiction of 56 deaths versus 300,000 people leaving where we first see the shimmer of a clean Surat. One of the reasons the death toll was so low was not only because of the migration, but also the quick actions of the state government. Paramilitary enforced quarantine while the state government rushed antibiotics to combat the plague. Nonetheless, Surat as a whole suffered greatly in economic terms. The migration out and lockdown caused $600 million in losses, a mammoth amount for a third world city. A burgeoning commercial center now became a backwater. So the government of Surat brought someone in to fix the city and unlock its great potential. His name was S.R. Rao, or Rao Sahib, as he came to be known. Rao Sahib was tasked with cleaning up the city, literally. When Rao first met his staff, they complained that the problem was genetic. They noted how they'd send workers to clean streets at 9 p.m., and by 10 p.m., the people would have just made a new garbage pile. So Rao went to these places personally. He waded in the garbage and sludge piles with his own feet to make a point to society. He would call his officials to clean the mess while he watched. But this type of individual signaling and surveillance can't clean an entire city, even if Rao was leading from the front. To learn how Rao succeeded, we have to look at this chart.
He lived by example. He lived by example. He just didn't dictate it. He actually participated in it. He actually, like, there have been so many situations where in, like, even in, like, the series, the short series on Netflix, Railwaymen, they were repairing the box, and the railwayman had to go out every single time because the second he left, they'd sit down and stop working. And my wife has told me instances is like as they're doing like this massive freeway or speedway work, the supervisor goes from location to location to location, constantly having to tell people to get back to work. And then he'll go to the next location, and then the people sit down, and she's seen them sit down. Is everyone like that? No. I mean, there are people like that here in the U.S. who, as soon as their supervisor's gone, they'll sit down and do their own thing. They'll sit down and do their own thing and not even bother working. But it happens everywhere. It happens everywhere. But it makes it far more difficult. That's why the employees need to see their leader literally in the dirt with them, doing the job. Because the employee feels, you have to make them feel guilty. You have to make them feel guilty. You have to make them feel like you are worth following because you are willing to do the job that they're being paid to do. You are there to be an example and that you will go to bat for them because you know what it's like to do that job. I'm sure a lot of people out there who have had jobs where the people who are telling you how to do your job have never been in your shoes and have never done what you're doing at your line of work. I'm sure a lot of us have been in situations like that. And then you kind of get frustrated and upset because that person has no clue what they're speaking of. They have no concept of what it's like to do your job because they were just hired because they had the qualifications, not because they actually ever did the menial labor. But yeah, I mean, there is a huge thing for showing that you know what you lead by example. You lead by example.
You can see how China and the US have a lot more local government employees versus India, who concentrates more power at the center and especially state level. This imbalance causes a lower level of accountability. While the center tends to national interests, state governments in India are frequently the biggest dens of corruption and inefficiency. This causes the understaffed and stretched local officials to be reduced to equally corrupt and/or overworked pawns. So what Rao did was place more emphasis on local governance. He created something he called the 6x6x6 system. Rao divided Surat into 6 zones. Each zone had 6 districts. Crucially, each zone leader was empowered with more executive authority, so they could make quicker decisions so that those under them in their 6 districts could execute faster as well. Rao introduced a redressal system for reporting to district authorities so they could respond quickly. He bent bureaucratic levers to introduce an administrative charge for nuisance, basically a fine for loitering. Later, the city was equipped with CCTVs that linked license plates to owners, so if someone throws litter out of the car, they get fined. Solid waste removal went from 35% to 95%.
Yep, there has to be consequences to people's actions. That is an important thing that needs to happen. Why the US has been getting so much worse over the decades is because they've gotten rid of consequences to actions. And it's taken people a long time to realize, oh, doing this heinous thing, I don't really get charged or nothing bad happens to me. That it's only gotten worse. Where they get arrested, put in jail for a day, over and over, where they have like 14 to 17 times put in jail until they burn a woman on a subway or stab a woman in a bus. You know, like what happened in New York. I think it was last year. Yeah, both those happened last year in New York. Why? Because they constantly allow this stuff to happen. They constantly allow it to, oh, you know what? Just because of the color of his skin, we're going to let him out. You know, that kind of nonsense. Instead of this person's a heinous net negative to society, let's lock him up. No, let's release him just because of his skin tone. Like, how stupid is that?
During his tenure,
there has to be
disease rates went
consequences
down
to actions.
70%. And soon Surat was being labeled the cleanest city in India. So now consider this. Why did that factor we talked about earlier, Izzathism, not cause an electoral backlash here? While Rao was a bureaucrat, so not a politician, if the people got angry enough, they could goad politicians into transferring him. But they didn't. And the reason ties back to the plague. The damage it caused in Surat affected everyone. Hindu, Muslim, upper caste, lower caste, legit everyone. This crisis made the city realize they had to change, that they had to stop politics over petty identity honor battles and instead elevate priorities like combating pollution. And that kind of sucks. The reason I'm saying it sucks is because it takes a massive crisis for Indians to change. Does that mean we should send a plague to every Indian city? I don't think so, but when I scroll the internet today, some people seem to have that idea. I mean, anti-Indian sentiment is kind of off the rails nowadays. But let's rest with that sentiment for a second. What if it is that anti-Indian sentiment that may just be the crisis that spurs change for Indians? What if the internet could make India clean? In 2014, Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched one of the most ambitious cleanliness campaigns in human history, Swachh Bharat, or Clean India, a national mission to transform India's relationship with not just pollution, but also human hygiene. The government built over 100 million toilets. They ran awareness campaigns. They even got Bollywood involved. They made cleanliness a matter of national pride. But the thing is, it failed. While infrastructure improved, people's behavior didn't. When all of India was given toilet coverage, many people still wanted to defecate in the open. The central government tried to push cleaning drives, but state and local governments didn't follow through. And while some did try to clean their streets, more kept polluting them. India's pollution is as much a cultural problem as it is a policy problem. So let's come back to Maslow. At independence, over 50% of Indians lived in extreme poverty. Today, it's below 5%. 390 million people lifted out of poverty in a single generation. That's more than the entire population of the United States.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still in poverty. Come on. I'm in that poverty section.
Indians are racing up Maslow's pyramid now. And as survival becomes less of a daily crisis, something else starts to matter. Self-esteem. How the world sees you. How you see yourself. 32 million Indians traveled abroad in 2025, and hundreds of millions more are seeing the world through their phones. And it's not just Tokyo and London they're comparing themselves to anymore. It's Nairobi, Hanoi, Medellin, cities that were synonymous with chaos and poverty a generation ago, now beating Indian metros on basic cleanliness. So when young Indians see this, something cracks. This searing hot shame is going viral within India. And shame, like the plague, is indiscriminate. Indians being insulted for their pollution doesn't target people by religion, caste, or ethnicity. It lands on all Indians simultaneously. That is a commons, and for the first time, it's being forced on us whether we like it or not. Recall that the Filth plague created a shared crisis that dissolved Izzatism long enough for Rao to do his work. Now the internet is also spreading a plague. That not just of anti-Indian sentiment, but the truth of India's reality, of its inadequacy.
Like, that's the thing. It's like, again, that's the one thing I had complained about. That's the one thing. And I can understand people calling it out, but the Indian hate is primarily targeting everything about India, not just its one main issue. It's everything they're targeting. They'll target the food, they'll target, like, no matter what it is, they find something to target. And it's just like, that makes no sense. That makes no sense. That you can target pollution, absolutely. That's an easy thing. That's an easy thing. That's like everyone, even in India, they're well aware of it. They're well aware of it. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. But you can easily target that, but you can't target every aspect. Like what was it? The IBZ, which was talking about the religious aspect and comparing it to like demons and things like. It's just like, what the heck? You don't target their religious practices. You don't target like their culture. You don't target. No, what you target is something that is obviously that could be fixed if just personal behavior changed a bit. Even though it's not entirely personal behavior, it has to do with like the system itself, but each person individually has a part to play in it. Every single person has a part to play in it. Have you heard of CJP? Yeah, I heard of it. My wife showed me the logo and everything after yesterday's stream, and I'm just like, wait a minute, I thought you guys were just joking about that. But I saw it and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is so stupid. The fact that they even have a symbol and everything, I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
Of its shortcomings, of its broken potential. So what should Indians do with all this shame? Because we are, and I say this as an Indian myself, a race of world-class complainers. We think that whining is wisdom, that being cynical is like the ultimate expression of intelligence, that expressing the same loser think, that our parents, our uncles, our aunties, our dadas, our daddies, our bais, our bens, everyone says the same thing in a pathetically scornful and sarcastic way that some people think makes us rebellious or innovative in our thought. My friend Samyak really hit me with a zinger when he told me this. That every complaint Indians make about India now is nothing different than what Indians 20, 50, 100, 200 years ago made. There's nothing new about this at all. What India needs is more Rao Sahibs. It needs more Afroz Shahs, who organize cleanups of Mumbai's beaches. It needs more Abdul Kalams who dare to dream. It needs more leaders who do not look away at India's shame, and instead urge its citizens to overcome it. It needs more average Indians who are willing to make a difference, to speak up, to sacrifice. Because the question was never whether India could be clean. Surat and India's past have answered that. The question is whether enough Indians are done whining and ready to do the work.
I like how he ended that. Ready to do the work. Yeah, because it's up to the people, because eventually the systems will change to adapt to the people's needs. But if the people don't care to change along with it, then nothing's going to happen. Just like with trying to introduce toilets, just trying to introduce a cleaner society, it's not going to change. Like, what was it? The Beautify India initiative, where they were trying to make it pretty for, like, I think it was the last parade for the independence. They were trying to beautify, was it Delhi? Did it happen in Delhi? I think it was Delhi. They were beautifying it, and then people were stealing like potted plants from the side of the road that was there to make it look pretty. They were there stealing stuff. It's just like, what the heck? What the heck? But it's free to grab. It's free to grab, just like bricks or things like that. You always see the videos, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, why? I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. But there are a lot of people that want change. Absolutely. The problem is that it's so much easier to become pessimistic, and I don't think people online are helping the discussion at all. Like streamers, influencers, propagandists, all those people who are just pushing like the Indian hate. Because what do Indians start to focus on? Well, targeting the nations back, targeting the people back. Instead of focusing on one legit criticism, They focus on everything because instead of being attacked for like literally an actual issue of the nation, they're being attacked for every aspect of their life. Nobody wants to be attacked for every aspect of their life. So they attack back, and that's absolutely rational, absolutely understandable. I completely get it. Because if someone's causing you a problem, you're gonna attack them back. It's just like, well, you do this stuff that's absolutely retarded. Why do you do this stuff? It works. It's exactly the same. But if you bring up something like the pollution, yeah, there's no Indian that can go like, you know what, you're just as bad. It's like, because some of the cities just are way too bad. I mean, San Francisco is bad. That when you come across like needles on the side of the ground is bad, or a homeless person taking a dump on the ground is bad. But that's the thing. It's like every place has its bad, but where the ocean literally looks of waste, I think that's where it's gone too far. But yeah, that's the thing. It's just like India was the cleanest. And for some reason, I think that does make sense. The fact that everyone's a part of a group, that anytime they're traveling out to do something else, they don't care about the group because it's not their group. So if they leave trash behind, that's not important. But it also has to do with the fact that the infrastructure wasn't there in place from the beginning. That kids grew up in a culture of filth. I don't want to be disrespectful, but grew up in a culture of filth that they just don't notice it. It's not a big deal to them because it's just it's not out of sight, out of mind, because they see it, but you become numb to it. Like I get numb to it too. Like I'm in India for a week, and the first time I was there, it was a huge eye opener seeing trash everywhere. The second time, all right, I'm starting to see them light the trash on fire. The third time, I stopped caring. I stopped caring about the trash burning. I stopped caring about the fact that there are these mounds of trash. I stopped caring that there's a dumpster full that a cow is eating out of. I stopped caring. But that's the sad part. I stopped caring. Imagine living in that your entire life. You stop caring because you don't think you could do a difference. I couldn't do a difference, even though I'd bring my trash sometimes back to the US with me because I couldn't find a trash can to throw away my trash. I'd leave it in my luggage. I'd leave it in my purse. I'd bring it back with me. Like, it's funny. There was like the last time I came back, I found like a few wrappers from like a place I had gone to with my wife, and I'm just like, why the heck is this here? Oh yeah, I took some food home with me. It's like, of course. Yeah, because I ate it in the car, didn't know where to throw it away, so I stuffed it in my bag. I was like, I'll throw it away at the airport. Couldn't find a trash can at the airport, so it stayed in my bag. I take it into the airport after passing security. Needed to find a trash can. Couldn't find a trash can, so it stayed in my bag. And then I get home and I'm like, oh, it's still here. And then I toss it. All that way, that trash has a long story to get to a trash can in the United States. Oh, but yeah, everyone needs to feel responsible. Everybody needs to take their own initiative, and the sheer hate towards India isn't helping. The criticism of the pollution is one thing, and most people who have traveled to India, like a lot of foreigners that live in India, that's like the one thing they don't like. That's the one thing they don't like. Other than that, most time they're happy. Food's good. People are kind. It's a very kind of welcoming culture. But the cities are polluted. The skies are polluted. I step outside and then my nose gets all stuffed up. The difference is civic sense. You care for the environment around you. We Indians think someone else will take care of it. Yeah, I believe everyone has a personal responsibility. But then again, I grew up in a society where littering is a crime. It is a crime, even though the homeless can't be charged with it because they do it everywhere and they have no money. But if someone gets caught tossing something out the window, they're getting pulled over, they're getting a $1,000 fine. We have people looting solar panels off street lights and hallways. What the? Literally? Yeah. Again, people need to take responsibility on themselves. They need to take responsibility on themselves.
You guys got a video?
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Wait like that.